Because of the difficult decisions we've made, today we can comfortably say our economy is standing on a fairly sound footing. You have said yourselves, you've seen yourselves the statistics, Our inflation has come down from 9.6% in 2022 to now an average of 3.5%. That significantly helps our macro and even the people who do business with us to understand that we can make the right choices. We have also, contained the slide on the dollar from a high of 165, 167. Now it has stabilized for the last 8 months at around between 128, 129 shillings to the dollar. We have also enhanced our foreign exchange reserves by another almost $2.4 billion. And therefore, our treasury bills have come down from 18% in 2022 to now 8%. Treasury bills. We're looking at an economy that is now beginning to look up. It is you, the people in business, who understand these numbers. The countries that did not, for example, take the kind of steps that we did ended up in a much more difficult place than we are. We must look at savings as a percentage of our GDP. And we must learn from what other countries have done. Today, savings as a percentage of GDP in Kenya is about between 10 and 12%, depending on which formula you use. If we compare ourselves to other countries, let me use, for example, China, it is 55%. Savings as a percentage of GDP in China is 55% of their GDP. It means citizens understand the importance of saving. And saving comes in different ways. Statutory savings, we have savings that come as a result of people pulling together. We have savings that come as a result of SACCOs and cooperatives and other interventions. But we must incentivize savings from a public sector perspective. The public sector must lead in shaping the savings culture of a nation. It is the reason why, for example, if you go to Uganda, they save 10%. Every person who works saves 10% of their salary. And government also contributes to the saving of, the employer, for that matter. Same thing with our brothers and sisters in Tanzania. These are two neighbors. Just to mention to you that these two countries have been doing it for the last 15, 20 years. In Kenya, we haven't quite, we've had a problem. And that is why up to 2023, the statutory savings of employed Kenyans was about 200 shillings. Not about, it was actually 200 shillings. Saved at NSSF. So the employee was saving 200, and the employer was contributing 200. So I once had a conversation with Atwoli, and I asked him, honestly, what kind of saving are we going to have if you save 200 shillings? No wonder Kenya is listed among, I think it's number 93, among the countries that have the highest old age poverty. After somebody works for 40 years, 50 years, their total saving is 100,000. So you give somebody 100,000 at age 60. By age 63, they are dead. Because 100,000 cannot keep anybody anywhere. I can proudly say we are changing the savings infrastructure of our country. Just for numbers, from independence, 60 years ago, up to 2023, we had saved at NSSF 320 billion shillings for 60 years. From 2023 to this year, in just 2 years, we're saving 280 billion. And that's why I said we are going to double our savings at NSSF by the end of this year. The money we saved for 60 years, we're going to double it by end of this year. And God willing, by 2027, we will have 1 trillion savings. Just tell me what's going to happen in 15 years and what's going to happen in 20 years. We're going to have a big pool of resources that can help us even enhance the credit available to the private sector. Because the problem we have in our country is that we do not have patient money that can wait for 15 years, for 20 years. And that is why all manner of borrowing is 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, and the interest rates are very steep. I want to encourage the private sector to work with us on expanding the savings infrastructure in our country. I want to ask the Chamber of Commerce to think about how do you play a role in making sure that together we facilitate savings so that we can use those savings for investment and we can begin the journey to make credit available to as many people as possible, especially the people who need it most in the micro, small, and medium enterprises. Today, we have contracts of close to 300 billion Kenya shillings in our housing program, in our markets, and in our hostel infrastructure. 300 billion. Not a single of those contracts is on borrowed money. There is no housing development we are doing on borrowed money. There is no market we are doing in Kenya on borrowed money. We have a different, funding mechanism. Again, we have gone to the market outside our debt book to develop instruments for developing our road infrastructure. Again, away from burdening our balance sheet with debt. we are building Talanta Hela here, one of the big stadiums, again away from debt on the balance sheet of the government of Kenya. We are building Bomas of Kenya away from debt on the balance sheet of Kenya. We've just concluded discussions with partners to do the road from Mau Summit here, from Rironi all the way to Mau Summit and eventually to Malaba. It will not be built on debt. It will be built on investment. We've agreed to extend the railway from Naivasha all the way to the border and into the rest of the East African community. Yesterday, we signed an investment instrument with UAE. They will be participating as an investment, not as a debt to the government of Kenya, to extend the railway. So these are alternative instruments for funding public infrastructure without burdening our citizens with debt on our books. And I'm saying this so that the Chamber of Commerce, with your membership, can focus on the areas that will give us momentum to take our economy forward in an innovative, in a creative manner. There will be negotiations in the next 3-4 months that will focus on us having greater access to the Chinese market for our tea, for our coffee, for our macadamia, for our avocados, for all the other products that we produce in Kenya. I expect the Chamber to be part of that conversation. The discussions have begun, and the minister here was with me in China. So, Waziri, let us bring the Chamber on board, because we have a big market in China. And I listened to the Vice President of the Chamber. We have a very big market in China for our tea, for our coffee, and many of the agricultural products that we produce. But the private sector in Kenya needs to step up. You need, gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen, you need to step up. I was in Fujian, and I met a very big importer of tea. And I had a conversation with him. He imports tea from Sri Lanka. He tried to import tea from Kenya, and it was impossible because our business people could not agree. They were pulling in different directions, and in between there were brokers. You know? So I have asked that major tea importer to come to Kenya next week. And I want the people in that sector to have a meeting with Waziri, because we can export as much tea as we want, especially after we negotiate for the reduction on the tariffs to China that is going on at the moment. The common user facilities that have been talked about by the Chamber Vice President are an important piece of infrastructure. But the private sector in Kenya, the business people in Kenya, you need to step up so that we can align you and the opportunities that exist with your colleagues in the other economies. We can only do so much as government, but the private sector must step up and suffer and take up the opportunities. Waziri, as soon as that group of business people come, I want the people in the tea sector to sit down, and I want a comprehensive plan on how we are going to export our tea to China. And all the other products that, we have a market of 1 billion people, surely. Even if we got 1%, 10% of that, we are good. We are pushing productivity. When we decided to stop subsidizing consumption and instead support production with the subsidized fertilizer and all the other interventions we have made, we have seen how the food security indicators have changed. We're producing more maize, we're producing more tea, we're producing more coffee, we're producing more sugarcane. I was actually very surprised with the statistics that the numbers have really grown on milk, on tea. We moved our tea earnings from 170 billion to 215 billion this year. We have also moved our prices on coffee from an average of 50, 60 shillings a kilo to now an average of 110, 140 shillings per kilo. Our sugarcane production is growing by leaps and bounds. I am actually surprised that very many regions in Western Kenya that did not grow sugarcane, all of a sudden, I see sugarcane growing everywhere, in Bungoma, in Uasin Gishu, in Nandi County, in Trans Nzoia, and in many other parts of our country. In fact, area under sugarcane has grown in the last 2 years by 200,000 acres. And cane that is being crushed has grown from 490,000 metric tons in the last 2 years to 815,000 metric tons this year. A growth of almost 70%. And the imports of sugar into Kenya have dropped by almost 60%, in fact 70%. We have since licensed another 4 sugar factories, private sugar factories, that are now undergoing construction. I think 2 or 3 of them will be ready before the end of this year. And we have also taken our reform into that space. We are concluding by the end of this week, we are concluding the leasing of all the government-owned sugar factories so that the private sector can bring in capital, they can bring in expertise, and help us unlock the potential in that area. We paid, for example, last year, we paid 1.7 billion shillings to government-owned sugar mills to go and pay farmers, to go and pay workers. Farmers who never supplied cane to government, and workers who did not work for government, but we went to pay for them. Then I'm asking myself, what happened to the sugar that was being crushed by these mills, and what happened to these workers? Why are we paying workers that did not work for us? So it's just the essence of taking the decisions that we must and get the private sector. The government has no business running sugar mills. Absolutely. We have no business running sugar mills. It is the work of private sector members of the Kenya National Chamber of Commerce should be running those sugar mills. Please, Mr. Chairman, Mr. President, go ask your members to go and run those sugar mills. So the private sector needs to be part and parcel of what we are doing. So as we enhance productivity, members of the Chamber of Commerce must take up value addition, agro-processing, export. You know, I will support the farmers to produce. You must help us to add value and to process and to export. That is in your forte, right? So, whether it is tea, we're producing more tea, you should add more value. And as the Chamber Vice President has said, we are removing taxes on packaging material, and I want to see what that will look like. It is in the current finance bill that we are going to exit all taxes on packaging material. We want to see how you, in the private sector, can leverage on that. We are also removing taxes on even purchases of tea from one company. We were given a very complicated matrix, and we agreed with it by the sugar people. So we have endorsed what you want us to do. I'm expecting results from that sector. We have also straightened the matters at of coffee. We decided to bite the bullet again because that space had been cornered by and held hostage by a few people. We have now democratized that space. We have changed the licensing regime. We have made the Nairobi Coffee Exchange much more efficient, and we have brought on board the CMA to manage the coffee exchange. And hopefully next month, I will be going to ring the first bell when the traders, when coffee sold, will be paid direct to farmers. There will be no in-betweens. But again, as we enhance our coffee production, we are looking at the private sector to provide mechanisms for value addition, for processing, for export, and all the other things that we need to do. I was at Ewasonyiro, and we have huge opportunity in leather. Ewasonyiro is a government facility, but I think a partnership with the private sector would unlock a bigger potential over Ewasonyiro. And I'm sure the ministry responsible will be looking for private sector players. We have put in place a good facility with good equipment, but the private sector would make better use of those facilities. We have the infrastructure in Kenanie, which we are in the process of concluding. And I don't know why the Chamber of Commerce has not seen the opportunity in leather. There is very big opportunity in leather, and we are prepared to work with you to unlock the potential that exists in our leather industry. We happen to have the third largest herd of livestock in Africa. It means we have the essential raw material. We have the leather, the most primary raw material you need. We have the hides, we have the skins, and therefore we have a very big competitive advantage. We should be able to unlock that opportunity. Just imagine that quite a big portion of our leather is being sold to be eaten somewhere in West Africa. And a bit of it is thrown around, Almost 50% of our leather goes to waste. And the chamber is having many sessions. I don't know what kind of conversation is going on in the chamber if you are not discussing leather. I think you should have a big conversation about leather. And I want to encourage the ministry to work with the private sector to unlock the potential that exists in our leather space. We have invested a bit in that space, and we want real business people to take up opportunity, you know. Don't wait for too long. Don't look for excuses. Don't look for, you know, the leather is available. We need business people to unlock the potential in that space. I am prepared to put in tax incentives to promote local production of leather products. Pending bills is crippling many businesses, especially MSMEs. We have been wrestling with this matter. We've taken it through the process. Of the 600 that was mentioned by the Chamber President, 600 billion, 230 has already been has gone through the mill and approved by the pending bills committee that we set up. And in the next budget cycle, before the end of this year, we want to pay 150 billion of that money, 90% to small and micro enterprises. In fact, the 90% of what we will pay will go to MSMEs. So that is my commitment to you. And because now we have decided to go the other direction, to avoid this big issue of pending bills, I did instruct that going forward, and it has begun from beginning of 1st April this year, we are moving to e-procurement to avoid all these gray areas and people, you know, procuring things that they have no money to pay for. So hopefully we can significantly reduce the challenges that come with pending bills. I am speaking about what national government owes. I know. We still need another conversation with our counties. And hopefully, under the framework that exists, I will ask the Deputy President to have a meeting with the counties under the IBEC arrangement so that the Chamber can also have a conversation with the county governments. Our expectation from these members who represent micro, small, and medium enterprises is that we will have a regime, an interest rate regime that reflects the global and also the overall view, because many of the small and micro enterprises are treated differently by banks. A bank will give a big borrower a lower interest rate by huge margins. And there is this risk thing that keeps, you know, quantifying it becomes very difficult. So I hope in the engagement you currently have with the private sector, we should be able to get to a place where we can have a proper answer for these good people. And you have suggested that you need regular consultative meetings with government. And I am proposing that we do this every 4 months. So at our next meeting in 4 months, hopefully you will have tidied up and we will have a proper response with numbers and figures and experience to these good people. Is that okay? Do you support that we do every 4 months? I think it's a good moment. I think you are also saying that there must be ring-fenced government contracts of a certain amount. I think the proposal was that you want government contracts of up to maybe 5 billion to be ring-fenced for local companies, not, and I think locally owned. They say not, not locally registered companies, local owned companies. I will ask my team at the Economic Council to work with the minister to see whether we start with 1 billion shillings or we do 5 billion. They will work out the number. In the next 4 months, we will come and So I would propose we start with 1 billion shillings. Let me give you some good news, though. Of the 300 billion contracts we have signed for affordable housing, for markets, and for hostels, all the companies are locally owned companies, all of them. We don't have a single Chinese company building our affordable housing. We don't have a single foreign company from anywhere. I am actually amazed at what Kenyan companies can do. You know, the fact that Kenyan companies have actually undertaken the affordable housing program in totality, Kenyan-owned companies, you know, and they are building all our markets, and they are building all our hostels. I am very impressed that Kenyan companies have that capacity. And as I have told you, we have signed contracts of close to 300 and a bit billion Kenya shillings in that framework. So when you say locally owned companies, I can confirm that they exist and they can do that business. I am not sure about 5 billion. That's what I'm not sure about. Maybe we can start with 1 billion shillings, then we can grow as we do that. There is already a policy that we passed as cabinet on matters internship, and therefore it is going to go to Parliament, and then subsequently we will have an internship law. I want to encourage the chamber to interact with the internship policy that is already before the House, and to work with us as we develop the internship law so that we can capture all the incentives that you need to carry interns in your businesses. I think having interns in your businesses is good for everybody. It's good for your business. It's also good for the graduates. It gives them experience, and we can share in the burden of the internship. You know, we can net off if you have interns and you pay them so much money to work for you as interns. We can allow you to deduct all that from your taxes, and I think that is something we can work out. So my encouragement is that the chamber should take up a serious place in the consultations that are going on now with Parliament, so that we can develop an internship program that carries on board the ideas and the suggestions you have made. But you've made the right decision. I think we should support companies and factories and manufacturers who recruit interns, and we should have some tax incentives for them. I have absolutely no problem with a legal framework for the Chamber of Commerce. with only one caveat, that you do not ask me for money. Yeah. So I think just the same way we have the Law Society of Kenya recognized in statute, but we don't give them any money. They, especially for you people, you are business people, you have a lot of money. So, but I think to create a farmer foundation for the chamber was really look at what best practice elsewhere looks like in different countries, and then let us borrow best practice and let us negotiate with the chamber on what legal framework, shape and form it will take. You've told me that the Ufanisi house, which is your building, you cannot access the building, that there is too much security around it, and that the building is empty. How sad, you know? I thought security was good. I didn't know that security can be an impediment to. So I will ask Parliament to have a conversation. I think, Waziri, can you help them? You know, convene a meeting between them and Parliament, and let us see whether we can persuade Parliament to buy the building, and then we can give you some land somewhere else. And you can go and build the Chamber of Commerce there. As we roll out our interventions on matters employment in our country, whether we are looking at the job market that we are rolling out because of the public infrastructure that we are engaged in, whether it is in our special economic zones, whether it's in our county aggregation industrial parks, the housing program, the markets program, the hostels program, or the digital jobs program that we have with ICT hubs across the country, or the labor mobility program that we have that gives Kenyans an opportunity to find opportunities for work outside Kenya. All this must be organized in such a manner that we create a big push for young people in Kenya to get opportunities to work and contribute their talent, energy, knowledge, and expertise in driving the growth of our economy, whether in all the sectors that we are focused on. And we will be looking at what the chamber can do for us to, as we push from the public sector, what private sector can do to support that effort. In any case, it is the private sector that has the greater potential of opportunities for job creation. We can support this from the public sector. The housing program we've rolled out, we have now hundreds of companies, you know, who have those contracts, and they have workers and they have employees, and hopefully we should be able to create more enterprises from the construction sector as we do in all the other sectors.